Today we celebrate the career of Tom Hanks.
I think you honestly know by page 7 where the screenplay is doing and what it's aspiring to, and the nature and the tone of it all, the quality of it all, and what it's going to demand of you as a participant.
Known originally for his work as a comic actor, Tom Hanks has shown the world that he's capable of working in any genre. His nice guy demeanor has made him an audience favorite, and his ability to consistently stretch his range has gained him the respect of his peers.
I think the only real yardstick for success is longevity, and I just hope to be able to keep doing it and for as long as is humanly possible.
I really feel lucky.
I would have made 20 romantic comedies.
All right.
I just sort of find good scripts.
The only thing I love more than working with Tom is just hanging out with Tom. Yeah, he's remarkable. He's such a lovely guy.
In casting Tom, I'd be taking on a really intelligent, really helpful collaborator.
Tom Hanks' popularity stems from audiences' ability to relate to him.
Tom Hanks is the everyman. He tends to play an ordinary man in extraordinary circumstances. So he could be anybody. He can be any one of us. And I think people relate to that because he could be your next door neighbor, he could be your father, he could be your husband, he could be your best friend.
Thomas Jeffrey Hanks was born on July 9, 1956, in the San Francisco suburb of Concord, California. He attended school at nearby Cal State University, Sacramento, where he majored in theater. It was at school that he met and married fellow actor Samantha Lewis. The couple would have 2 children together. Tom left school early and moved to New York, where he soon made his big screen debut in the 1980 horror film He Knows You're Alone. Later that year, he landed one of the lead roles in the ABC sitcom Bosom Buddies. Although it was well reviewed, the cross-dressing comedy only lasted 2 seasons. His next movie, Bachelor Party, was followed immediately by the mermaid comedy Splash. Shot on shoestring budgets, both films were huge hits. Hanks was suddenly in demand, but his intense work schedule contributed to the dissolution of his marriage. In 1985, Hanks made 2 comedies, The Man with One Red Shoe and Volunteers. During the filming of Volunteers, Hanks began a relationship with actress Rita Wilson. While his love life thrived, so did his career. The Money Pit, a 1986 comedy about a couple's disastrous home renovation, was another massive hit.
I read the script before we started doing this. I knew that it was going to be a physical job that was entailed, and I knew that a lot of foreign substances were going to be applied to my body.
At this point, Tom was both a household name and a big box office draw. In 1987, his string of hits continued with Dragnet, a police buddy comedy with Dan Aykroyd. Hanks' career would then take a major leap forward with Big. Playing a young boy who suddenly wakes up in the body of a 30-year-old, he would earn his first Oscar nomination, and the film would earn over $150 million. In Punchline, Hanks stretched his acting muscles even more as a struggling stand-up comedian.
Stand-up is an extremely hard life. It's a hard lifestyle. It's not an easy way to live. You have to stay up late. That's the first thing that I noticed when I went out and started doing stand-up.
Hanks finished up the 80s with 3 more successful comedies: The Burbs, Turner and Hooch, and Joe versus the Volcano, which would be his first collaboration with Meg Ryan. During this time, Hanks married Rita Wilson. He was riding an almost unprecedented wave of success, but his career was about to be jeopardized.
Action! How did I get to be so important?
The Bonfire of the Vanities, a drama based on a popular novel, would prove to be a disaster. Both Hanks and director Brian De Palma bore the brunt of the criticism. Fans and critics said that neither should have been involved with the project in the first place.
For me to play Sherman McCoy
meant that I was going to be the walking embodiment of a person that everyone had a very specific idea of what he looked like, their concept of how he talked and walked and what his attitude was. It was the aspect of the book that everybody talked about, how they felt about Sherman McCoy. And so now here I am, I'm playing this guy, Sherman McCoy, much to the chagrin of an awful lot of people.
Having just suffered his first major career setback, Tom Hanks would retreat into seclusion, not appearing on screen for 2 years. In 1992, Tom Hanks returned from a 2-year break from movies, first with a cameo in the children's drama Radio Flyer. He then scored a much-needed box office home run with A League of Their Own by playing the manager of an all-female World War II-era baseball team.
This is the best gig. The only negative aspect of it is that I don't actually get to play baseball in the movie, other than hit a ball a few times in one scene. But to be in a position where I get paid to come and put on a uniform and run around the ball field as much as I want to, and have all my teammates be a bunch of chicks, it's a man's fantasy baseball experience. It's been going on all summer.
The following year, he struck gold again with Sleepless in Seattle, his second romantic comedy with Meg Ryan. He played a recently widowed man learning to love again.
I think that you can see how these people really need each other to complement each other's points of view. And that's why I hope you're invested in waiting for them to get together at the very end of the movie, if they get together at the very end of the movie.
He ended the year with Philadelphia. In the role of a gay man with AIDS, Hanks faced his greatest acting challenge to date. His work was universally praised, and Hanks would immediately become the award season frontrunner. The emotionally and physically transformative performance he lent to the film would earn Tom his first Oscar for Best Actor.
I had to lose weight, but I had to lose it in a very kind of specific manner, which required a pretty rigorous diet and exercise program that never stopped.
As Forrest Gump, Hanks would create one of the most iconic roles of the decade. Directed by Robert Zemeckis, the 1994 drama about a simple man's life experiences through the 20th century would gross over $675 million worldwide.
I think Forrest Gump is common sense embodied. He's absolute manifest of the most straight shooting guy, the most decent point of view, who can really only operate at the speed of his own common sense, which is not real fast, but it certainly is sure-footed.
But if I think about it real hard, I can remember my first pair of shoes.
Hanks would win his second consecutive Oscar for his work in Forrest Gump.
When Tom Hanks won for Philadelphia and then the following year he won for Forrest Gump, it was the first time that an actor had won consecutive Oscars since Spencer Tracy did for Captain Courageous and Boys Town.
For his next project, Apollo 13, Tom reteamed with Splash director Ron Howard for the true story of a failed NASA mission. As a lifelong space buff, he was over the moon.
I've always wanted to play an astronaut. I've always wanted to, to shoot a vast section of a movie completely encapsulated by nothing but metal, glass, and switches, and I finally have a chance to do that too. So this is real dream come true stuff here.
Shortly afterward, Tom's wife Rita gave birth to his fourth child. With fatherhood at the forefront of his mind, he lent his voice to the Disney animated film Toy Story.
You got wings! You glow in the dark!
My very first meeting with these guys in 1992, or whenever it was, they had drawn Woody and animated him with my voice from lines from Turner and Hooch. So seeing that in tandem with the entire movie and storyboards around the room, you could kind of get Woody's physicality and understanding of, the energy behind his voice.
In 1996, Hanks would try his hand at directing with the 60s musical comedy That Thing You Do. The movie chronicled the rise of a 60s pop rock band.
Very early on, we made the philosophical choice to fill it up with nothing but brand new original music, every note.
And action!
Developing a taste for work behind the camera, Tom then won an Emmy Award for directing, producing, and co-writing From the Earth to the Moon, a miniseries about the U.S. space program.
We wanted to try to tell the story so that you would eventually have an understanding of every aspect of going to the moon.
Next, Hanks and Steven Spielberg collaborated on the World War II drama Saving Private Ryan. Though good friends, it was their first time working together.
It's not something we really actively pursued. We never said like, hey, let's find something to do together. I read this at the same time he read this, and I didn't even know he was doing it. So we talked on the phone after that was made evident to us, and within 24 hours we were making the movie together.
For his role in the film, Hanks won another Golden Globe and another Oscar nomination. Tom Hanks had ridden a wave of successful projects all the way to the top, all while giving back as much as he could to the people who put him there. Tom Hanks' reputation as the nicest nice guy in Hollywood was personified in his speech to the crowd at his 1998 handprint ceremony at Hollywood's Chinese Theater.
I never thought they'd close off Hollywood Boulevard for the sake of me. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. This is a very, very special day. Thank you, everyone.
That winter, Tom had another hit with You've Got Mail, his third romantic comedy with Meg Ryan. Hanks had another two-hit year in 1999 with the Pixar sequel Toy Story 2 and The Green Mile, a prison drama from Shawshank Redemption filmmaker Frank Darabont.
How's that pretty gal of yours?
This is the type of film that you can't have explained to you. You know, they go, okay, we're going to send you the thing. It's a screenplay. Frank wrote it. It's about 1935 death row, but these things happen. You say, what? And then you begin to read it. And honestly, it unfolds like all the great movies do.
Castaway, his second feature with Robert Zemeckis and his first as a producer, was such a film. In the role of a man stranded alone on an island, Tom had to gain and lose 50 pounds and rarely talk.
It was a great professional commitment, and it was wonderful for him to do that, and it all, was worthwhile because it makes the movie wonderful.
We were bucking a lot of cinematic trends. The narrative that most audiences are used to now in movies are having everything explained to them every step of the way, either by musical score that tells you how you're supposed to feel, or by having a voiceover that tells you exactly what everybody is thinking. And we just decided to take all those things out of there because we trusted that if we did our jobs well enough, the audience was always still going to be one step ahead of us anyway.
What words rhyme with fire? Desire!
His mostly silent performance would earn Hanks a 5th Oscar nomination for Best Actor. In 2001, Hanks and Steven Spielberg teamed up to produce the Emmy-winning Band of Brothers. The miniseries about World War II continued his dedication and commitment to giving veterans of the war their much-deserved recognition. 2002's Road to Perdition saw Hanks play a 1930s gangster on the run with his son while dodging his murderous former bosses.
I wasn't reading so much a gangster movie set in the 1930s. I was reading a story about a father and son, and I said, this is the truth, this is accurate.
Christmas of the same year saw the release of Catch Me If You Can, another collaboration with Steven Spielberg. In the film, he plays an FBI agent on the trail of a brilliant con man, played by Leonardo DiCaprio.
Tom has a kind of built-in naturalness. He just, it's so effortless. He doesn't have to push or shove or struggle internally in order to perform. He doesn't worry too much about what he does, and he's very trusting and will walk away. If I after take one, if I said, great, let's move on, Tom would say, fine, great, let's move on.
Tom closed out the year with his third movie for Steven Spielberg, The Terminal.
I must say, working with Steven is like being a part of a repertory theater company that you've been in for like 10 years. You come in, what's the part? What are we going to do? Oh, let me go. Here, how about if I do this? It's really a great way to work.
In the heartfelt comedy, Hanks plays an Eastern European man who becomes trapped in a New York airport when a war in his homeland makes his passport invalid. While waiting to be cleared to enter the country, he strikes up a friendship with the flight attendant, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones.
You headed for home?
No, I am delayed, long time.
Catherine Zeta-Jones is she's as magnificent as you get, and there's like no maintenance. I think we were really just playing more than anything else.
Tom had even more time to play around later that year with the Polar Express. The animated adventure reunited him with both director Robert Zemeckis and his bosom buddies co-star Peter Scolari.
When you put Tom and me in the room together, you know, it's not pretty. Zemeckis had to separate us quite often. Say, all right, yeah, we know you're funny, the bosom buddies, very cute. I have a movie to make.
The Polar Express employed a new animation technique called motion capture.
In some ways, working in the three-dimensional volume, you don't have costumes on, you have a lot of sensors on all over your body. You'd think, well, what's the point? But the truth is, anything you do registers. So you can never make a mistake, which is great. You're never having to, the momentum of being able to shoot for 10 or 15 minutes at a time and just going back and grabbing it literally in the same moment is as free as I've ever felt as an actor.
Although it made over $300 million, the film was not a hit due to its large budget. Still, it would take more than that to bring down a guy with as much to be happy about as Tom Hanks.
I like the Christmas Eve makeout session with my wife. That's I'd have to say that's my favorite. Isn't that your favorite, baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
In 2006, Tom Hanks had another international smash with the Da Vinci Code. Working once again with director Ron Howard, the makers of the thriller were granted unprecedented access to film some normally off-limit locations in Paris, including the Louvre.
I didn't think you'd be able to surpass working in the Louvre after hours. I mean, you're walking past Ian Pei's, masterpiece of a pyramid, and then you're going in and seeing the Mona Lisa, as well as thousands of other very, very famous and very inspiring pieces of art.
The Da Vinci Code had its premiere at the Cannes Film Festival. The movie, like the book it was based on, captivated audiences and went on to gross over $758 million internationally. 2007's Charlie Wilson's War was the true story of a Texas state representative's quest to end the war in Afghanistan. Julia Roberts co-starred.
George Cryle's book was like a bolt out of the blue. I had never heard of this guy, Charlie Wilson. The only thing I knew is that the Soviet Union had been defeated in Afghanistan, and this was, how many years ago? 15 years ago.
You want to take a look at this tomorrow?
Why?
This is your introduction. You want to look it over?
Hanks returned to the big screen in 2009 for Angels and Demons, a sequel to the Da Vinci Code.
You guys don't even read your own history? 1668, the church kidnapped 4 Illuminati scientists, branded each one.
Taking place mostly in Vatican City, the movie was both filmed and premiered in Rome, Italy.
This was not like working in Rome, this was like having an extended holiday where we just happened to make a movie.
Despite objections from the Catholic Church and a controversial subject matter, the film went on to make nearly $500 million worldwide. Tom would go straight from one huge sequel to another with Toy Story 3. It would prove to be the biggest of the bunch, making well over $1 billion internationally.
Okay, first off, we all knew Operation Playtime was a long shot. Woody is a passionate guy who throws himself into every action. You notice how, like, Woody just runs across a lawn? He does it full bore. He doesn't hesitate for a moment. As soon as he has an instinctive thought of, I have to help them, or I have to run away, he does it with 100% commitment. You gotta love that about anybody.
Hanks was humbled by the popularity of the character and franchise that he'd helped to create.
Now it's entered into the sort of like the global consciousness of storytelling. So in order to be the guy, to be one of the guys, and to be the tallest of the bunch with those boots and the cowboy hat, this odd kind of professional and social responsibility goes along with it. So I still feel lucky that they picked me to be Woody.
Toy Story 3 was nominated for 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, a feat rarely accomplished by an animated film. In 2011, Tom returned to directing with Larry Crowne. The romantic comedy co-starred Julia Roberts and was about a middle-aged man who returns to college after being fired from his job. Later that year, he had taken a smaller role in the drama Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, about a boy coping with the loss of his father after the September 11th attacks. In 2012, Hanks was featured in 6 different roles in Cloud Atlas, an ambitious and grand movie that took place in the past, present, and future. The film also featured Halle Berry and Hugh Grant. Tom earned more stellar reviews for 2013's Captain Phillips, the true story of a freighter captain whose ship was hijacked by Somali pirates. The film earned 6 Oscar nominations and another Golden Globe nomination for Hanks. Later that year, Tom released Saving Mr. Banks. He stepped into the shoes of the legendary filmmaker Walt Disney as he attempted to convince author P.L. Travers for the rights to her book Mary Poppins. Emma Thompson co-starred as Travers. Tom Hanks has 3 films scheduled to be released at the end of 2015. St. James Place, a period spy thriller that reunites him yet again with Steven Spielberg. The comedy A Hologram for the King, about an American salesman's journey to Saudi Arabia. And Ithaca, a small drama directed by his friend Meg Ryan. In an industry where many actors are referred to as overpaid, Hanks is well known to be anything but.
Tom Hanks is definitely a $20 million player, and he is fully on deserved of that $20 million. You're assured a terrific performance and 110% commitment from him. He's worth every penny.
Tom Hanks has always been more than just a nice guy. His humility, intelligence, and dedication to his craft have propelled him into the stratosphere. Hank's star power seems to glow brighter and brighter in every successive year. In a world of half-baked celebrities, he's always been the real deal.
I wish there was some sort of like credit in the bank you could get so you don't have to work so hard. But the fact is, as soon as you say yes to a job, you got to do it right. That never goes away.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Celebrated.